introduction.dwg. I would direct you to find that file from the library or download it from the library and use it to follow along with the video. Be aware with the exercise files as well, they are saved all the way back to a 2013 DWG file type. That means that any version of AutoCAD from AutoCAD 2013 up to the latest version can use those files. So you don't have to have the latest version to follow the Learning AutoCAD course. So as I've stated there, the files are in the library, they're saved to 2013 DWG file format, and I'll direct you as to which file you need for each video throughout the course. What should you know before you start this Learning AutoCAD course? Well, one of the things you should have is a good working knowledge of the Windows operating system, as this is the Windows-based version of AutoCAD that we're using in this Learning AutoCAD course. What else should you need to know though? Well, you should have a good basic knowledge of drafting principles. Ideally, you should know how to create a drawing, how to communicate your designs using drawings and design principles. Ideally, if you have got a base level knowledge of AutoCAD already and you've been exposed to AutoCAD either perhaps at college, university or at work, that's really good experience to have before taking this particular course. Don't worry though if you haven't got any existing AutoCAD experience. That's not a problem. The whole idea of this Learning AutoCAD course is to get you started from scratch so that you know the workflows and the processes of AutoCAD. So ideally, you should have a good working knowledge of the Windows operating system. You should know your drafting principles and how to create drawings. And ideally, you should have been exposed to AutoCAD at some point, but it's not a prerequisite for this particular course. We will be starting you from scratch. Some of you might be using older versions of AutoCAD to take this particular Learning AutoCAD course. You'll notice that the new AutoCAD interface that we're using for this particular course, which is the latest version of AutoCAD, does look different to some older versions of AutoCAD. So you'll notice initially the dark mode, as it's called, with the darker screen and the darker ribbon and so on. You'll also notice that the icons are much cleaner and much more defined. That's to work with monitors that are 4K HD. As we go across the tabs on the ribbon, you'll notice these icons have all had a redesign and look very clean and clear. There's a lot of use of color as well. So you'll notice, for example, the PDF type icons stand out with that red PDF tab at the bottom of the icon. As we move across, you'll see that the colors are used very, very well, especially in the parametric tab on the ribbon, like so. As we work our way across the tabs, the icons obviously demonstrate each of the functions that is available on the tabs and in the panels on those tabs in the ribbon. So you can see that it works very quickly and easily, just working your way across the tabs on the ribbon. Don't worry too much if you are using an older version of AutoCAD and not the latest version like we are for this Learning AutoCAD course. Predominantly, the functionality of AutoCAD stays the same. There are new features per each version, but what we'll do is go through some of those in this Learning AutoCAD course and also in subsequent other AutoCAD courses that are available in the library. We're starting a new chapter now in the Learning AutoCAD course, and we're going to get you started with the AutoCAD interface. For that reason, we've got a new drawing for you. It's called interface.dwg, and as I mentioned in the introduction, you can download that from the library to follow along with the videos in this chapter. You can store that locally on your PC, perhaps on a network if you're on a network, perhaps even in the cloud if you're using something like Dropbox or OneDrive. So let's get started with the AutoCAD interface. We've got a new drawing for you. It's called interface.dwg, and as I mentioned in the introduction, you can download that from the library to follow along with the videos in this chapter. You can store that locally on your PC, perhaps on a network if you're on a network, perhaps even in the cloud if you're using something like Dropbox or OneDrive. So let's get started with the AutoCAD interface. The first thing we're going to look at is the application menu. You will find the AutoCAD application menu in the top left corner of your AutoCAD screen. It's that big red A up here. So when I click on it, there's the application menu like so. Now you'll notice all the commands on the left-hand side of the application menu. So let's start there. So if I hover over New, you can see I can start a new drawing or a new sheet set. Sheet sets are covered in a different course in the library. I can open files like so. I can open from AutoCAD Web and Mobile too. We'll cover that later. You can save, and you can also save as, and you'll see there's different file types that you can save out to as well. You can import files into AutoCAD. You can export files out of AutoCAD as well, and there's lots of different file types that you can utilize. You can publish your designs using archive, e-transmit, email, and also sharing views in the cloud. You can also print as well. You can plot, you can batch plot, you can do a plot preview. You can also set up page setups for different types of plotting, and you'll notice there that you can also 3D print to something like Autodesk Print Studio if it's available. That allows you to perhaps start thinking about 3D printing 3D objects that you might design in the full AutoCAD. You can't use 3D in AutoCAD LT, for example. Drawing utilities, there's numerous utilities in AutoCAD that allow you to work with your drawings. Things like drawing properties, DWG compare, units, audit, status, and purge. You'll also notice that you can close your drawing or drawings. You can close the current drawing, or you can close all drawings if you've got more than one drawing open in your current AutoCAD session. So there's all the different commands available on the application menu. Let's move up to these two little icons here. At the moment, they're showing me the recent documents I've had open. That's these files here. I can change it just to the open documents that I may have. And you'll notice there's different settings there. So if I go back to recent documents, I can look at an ordered list and sort it by date, size, or type if I want to. I can also go back here and I can have small icons, large icons, small images, or large images, like so. I tend to prefer the small icons, just keeps it neat and tidy. I can also pin open, say, my interface.dwg file. That means every time I go back to the application menu, that will always be pinned there at the top of the list. Great if you're working on projects where you go into drawings regularly all the time on a day-to-day basis. I'll just unpin that now as well. You'll also notice at the top I can search my commands. If I type in line for the line command, it'll then take me to all of the different instances of the line command available in the help screens. It explains things like matches for where it is on the ribbon tab, and so on and so forth. There's a whole load of them there because line is one of the most commonly used commands in AutoCAD. I can just delete that again in that bar at the top, and I'm back to my application menu again. Last but not least, down here at the bottom, I can click on Options. What that opens then is the Options dialog box, which allows me to go in and set all of my options and settings in my AutoCAD. Allows me to go in and set all of my options and settings in my AutoCAD. Now, these settings that you set here are permanent and will be set there until you change them to something else. All of these settings here are remembered by AutoCAD on a day-to-day basis. So if you change the settings in your options, what will happen is you'll go home that evening, save all your drawings. When you come back in and open up AutoCAD again, those settings will remain set to what you've set them to. That's what your options are all about in AutoCAD, allowing you to customize your AutoCAD to suit the way that you work, your working processes, either within your organization or at work or at college, etc. I will just close the options dialog box now, and you'll notice that has also closed the application menu as well. We're staying in our interface.dwg file. And what we're going to look at this time in the AutoCAD interface is the ribbon and the panels. We're also going to touch on the quick access toolbar and the info bar at the top of the screen as well. I kind of include those in the ribbon because they sit there with the ribbon in your AutoCAD interface. So as I said, we've still got the interface.dwg file open. We're not actually going to do anything with the drawing right now, but in order for the ribbon to be activated so that you get access to all of its tools and commands, you do need a DWG file open. So let's have a look at the top left of the screen. Let's have a look at the quick access toolbar. That's over here, and you can see that you've got things like new, open, save, do, and redo. You can also customize. The quick access toolbar by clicking on the little down arrow there, and you can add other commands to the quick access toolbar. One of my favorites is layer, and you'll see there now that I can work with my layers there in the quick access toolbar if I want to. If I want to switch that off, click on the down arrow, just untick layer, and it disappears again. So that's the quick access toolbar. Over here on the right hand side, you've got the info bar. I can type in a search option there. Let's say the line command, click on search, and that will allow me to search the help screens for all the incidences of the word line, similar to what we had in the application menu in the previous video. I'll just delete that now. I can sign in to my Autodesk account here as well, my Autodesk A360 and my Autodesk account. We're going to cover that later in this course. I can also go to the Autodesk App Store, and I can go to the website and download apps for AutoCAD. I can also connect with the Autodesk online community. I've also got the help screens here with the question mark, and if I click on the down arrow, there's various other bits of functionality as well, such as managing your AutoCAD license and also giving AutoCAD and Autodesk feedback so that you can obviously improve AutoCAD as you go along in subsequent versions of AutoCAD that are released each year. So there's a lot of tools even before we get to the ribbon and the panels. Now the ribbon itself is made up of tabs. I mentioned these earlier in the introduction. So you can see here, as I click on each tab, it changes the types of panels that I've got available on the ribbon. So you'll notice that there's lots of different panels available. Let's go back to the Home tab on the ribbon. That tends to be one of the better ones because I can demonstrate lots of different things. So you'll notice on the ribbon there, I've got the Draw panel and all the Draw commands. I've got flyouts that allow that to extend to all the different Arc commands. For example, I hit Escape to lose that menu. You'll also notice on the title bar here, when you've got a little flyout arrow, that indicates that there's more commands on that ribbon panel. So I can click on the flyout arrow, click on the pin, and pin that open. So you can see I've got lots of other commands that I can draw with in my AutoCAD drawings. When you undo the pin, it flies back into the ribbon like so. Now, if I go to the Annotate tab on the ribbon, you'll also notice that there's lots of little sort of like 45-degree arrows in the corners of the title bars. If I click there for the text one, it'll open up the text style dialog box and allow me to set up different text styles in my AutoCAD drawings. I'll just close that now. Same with dimensions there. I've got the flyout that I can pin open, but I've also got the little arrow which takes me into the Dimension Style Manager, which I'll now close. And I'll unpin that and let it go back into the ribbon again. So those ribbon panels are very useful. Now you can change the display of your ribbon, and sometimes people click on this in error and suddenly think that they've damaged the AutoCAD interface. You haven't at all. It's this little white arrow here. If I click here, it will minimize the ribbon to different views. So I've now minimized it just to the panel buttons, and there I've just got can you see I've got text, dimensions, and so on. And then if I click again, I've now disappeared it completely. I haven't, it's there. And then if I click one more time, it'll take me back to the default setting. So don't panic if your ribbon suddenly changes by clicking on this in error. Just keep clicking and you'll get back to the default setting. Last but not least, you have a fantastic thing in AutoCAD, which I use a lot with a 2-monitor setup, and that is the sticky panels. If I click and drag, let's say, on a panel, I can put it into the AutoCAD screen. Let's go back to the Home tab on the ribbon. I'll click and drag the Draw panel out into the drawing area. So now I've got all my draw tools, but I can go and annotate using drag the Draw panel out into the drawing area. So now I've got all my draw tools, but I can go and annotate using the Annotate tab. Tab on the main ribbon. Now, you would have thought if I return that Draw panel to the ribbon now, it's going to go into the Annotate tab on the ribbon. No, it won't. If I hover over it and use this little T-shaped icon, Return Panels to Ribbon, it returns it back to its original position. So if I go back to the Home tab now, you'll see my Draw panel is back on the ribbon where it originated from. So it's a really useful tool if you need some particular panels to use on a regular basis. And the good thing is there as well is you can save them as a workspace in your AutoCAD interface if you need to. That's covered in other AutoCAD courses in the library. So you can find out about workspaces in other AutoCAD courses and find out how to save your own workspaces as well. But that just about covers the ribbon and the panels in your AutoCAD interface. We're staying in our interface.dwg file, and we're going to have a look at another part now of the AutoCAD interface. We're going to look at dialog boxes and also palettes in AutoCAD. Dialog boxes are often used for inputting variables and information in AutoCAD to allow you to draft effectively when creating your designs. Palettes tend to be used for settings that you might be using when you're designing in AutoCAD as well. So let's have a look at a typical dialog box in AutoCAD. So we're going to go to the Home tab on the ribbon and into the Annotation panel and click on the little flyout arrow here. And I'm going to click on this little icon here, which is your Dimension Style dialog box. So if I click there, that will open up the Dimension Style dialog box. And I can close it like so. I can also go to Annotate here and click on the arrow here in the Dimensions panel, that will open up the same dialog box. So as you can see, there's different routes, different workflows to get to the same dialog boxes and also palettes in AutoCAD. So I'll close that, go back to the Home tab, click on the flyout on Annotation, click on Dimension Style here, like so, and it opens up the dialog box. Now, one of the benefits of AutoCAD dialog boxes is they can be resized. So if you hover over an edge, you'll see the go back to the Home tab, click on the flyout on Annotation, click on Dimension Style here, like so, and click on the flyout on Annotation, click on Dimension Style here, like so, and it opens up the dialog box. Now, one of the benefits of AutoCAD dialog boxes is they can be resized. So if you hover over an edge, you'll see the double arrow, drag like so. Hover over this edge, double arrow, drag like so. I can do this on each side, like that, and I can make it much bigger if I need to see more detail. And now, because it's bigger, I can diagonally resize it as well by hovering over a corner like that. If I keep dragging, you'll see that I get to a default size, which is the size that opens originally when you start the Dimension Style Manager command. And then I can click and drag on the title bar of any dialog box and float it around the screen like so. So if I close that now, that's pretty much how most dialog boxes behave in AutoCAD. Now, the content of those dialog boxes will obviously differ depending on what command you're using. So it might be numerical or alphabetical input, you might have radio buttons, you might have drop-down menus, you might be selecting particular parts of the dialog box to switch things on and off as well. Now, palettes are subtly different. If we stay in the Home tab on the ribbon and go to the Layers panel and click here on Layer Properties, this will open up the Layer Properties Manager. Now, if I click and drag on the title bar of this, can you see I can actually dock a palette? I can't. If we stay in the Home tab on the ribbon and go to the Layers panel and click here on Layer Properties, this will open up the Layer Properties Manager. Now, if I click and drag on the title bar of this, can you see I can actually dock a palette? I can't. Properties. This will open up the Layer Properties Manager. Now, if I click and drag on the title bar of this, can you see I can actually dock a palette? I can't dock a dialog box. And again, I can still hover over a corner, make it bigger and smaller. If I want to, I can hover over an edge, make it longer, make it deeper, and so on. I can also hover over these and make the columns wider. And as you can see, it tends to be settings, in this case our layers, and we're setting up our layers and the column so that we can see what we're doing. Palettes can also have various settings applied in their properties. So you can see that I can move it, size it, close it. I can allow it to be docked or anchor it left or right. I can also switch on something like auto hide, which when I move away now, leaves just the title bar of the palette. When I hover over it, it appears again. To switch that auto hide off, I click on this little icon here, and now it stays open all the time. Down here, you'll notice as well, I've got an icon here. I can click on that one, and that won't actually do anything. That's the icon there that just tells you what it is. You'll notice that icon there represents the layer properties icon on the layers panel on the ribbon. Now, I'm not going to bore you with any of the layers here because obviously we go into that later on in this course and other courses in the library. But that's basically how a palette works. You'll also notice as well there's a little cross there. If I click on that cross, it closes the palette like so. So that's your dialog boxes and your palette. In AutoCAD. And you'll come across those many, many times as you're drafting and setting up your AutoCAD drawings in AutoCAD. Once again, we're staying in our interface.dwg file. And what we're going to look at in the AutoCAD interface this time is the status bar. That's located in the bottom right corner of the AutoCAD application screen. And what it controls is the majority of your drafting settings in AutoCAD. These are the settings that you need to draft accurately, neatly, and tidily in your AutoCAD drawings. So let's have a little look now at the status bar down there on the bottom right area of the screen. You'll notice there that we've got various tools that are already switched on. They're the ones that are highlighted in the blue. So you'll notice there that the Snap to Drawing grid is on. You'll also notice that my polar tracking is on, my object snap tracking's on, and my object snaps are on. You'll also notice that my annotation objects are set to show always. Now you can switch all of these different drafting settings on and off just by clicking on the icon. So I can toggle between polar tracking and ortho mode there just by clicking. You'll notice it changes color. Click back on the polar tracking like so. There's also little flyout arrows there as well. So if I click on the flyout arrow for the polar tracking, I can change the angle increment that the polar tracking is using. So I could change that to say 45 degrees instead. I can also right click on any of these settings and go to tracking settings there, and it'll bring up the dialog box that I use to set my polar tracking. So you'll notice we're in the drafting settings dialog box and we're in the polar tracking tab. I can also set my object snaps there in the same way that if I cancel that and right click on my object snaps here and go to object snap settings, it'll bring up the same dialog box just in a different tab, the object snap tab. Now the object snaps here as well, you can click on the flyout and set your running object snaps. Now normally I also switch midpoint on as well. So those are my go-to running object snaps: endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, and extension. Don't switch them all on at any given time. Not good. You want to switch on the ones that you know you're going to use regularly. The other ones can be used using what they call override snaps or snap overrides, which again we cover later on in the course itself. I can click away now from that and that menu disappears. Now, something you may notice when you start using AutoCAD for the first time is you have a thing called dynamic input. If I start typing a command, you'll notice immediately it brings up a suggestion menu near the crosshair, near the cursor on the screen. So there's my suggestion menu prompting me that I need the line command, for example. Now that dynamic input is always on by default, but sometimes you might want to toggle it off. How do you do that? Well, let me hit escape just to get away from that line command first. Now, if you go down here to what they call the burger icon, it's these 3 lines here. This allows you to customize the status bar and switch on different drafting settings on the status bar. So you'll notice that even though dynamic input is actually on by default, it's not displayed on the status bar. It's not ticked in the list. So there's dynamic input. I select it. Dynamic input is now there on the status bar. So I click on the little burger icon, the little 3 lines to lose the menu. So now there's dynamic input there. I can turn it off. I can turn it on. More importantly, though, I can now right-click on it and go to dynamic input settings. And I'm now in the drafting settings dialog box again in the dynamic input tab. And I can alter the settings, the displays, and of even the drafting tooltip appearance as well. I can change that. So you can change the colors, the transparency, and so on. I tend to use the default settings, so I'm going to OK that. But you can see there that obviously the status bar is a fundamental part of your AutoCAD application screen. It's where you switch on all your drafting settings, to switch them off and on, change the values of the settings, the parameters of the settings, and so on. The benefit is as well is when you're drafting in AutoCAD, you can go down and operate that status bar at any time, even in the middle of a command if you want to. So for example, if I go to the line command and I draw a line and I click, there's my line there. Can you see my polar tracking's kicking in at that 45-degree increment? I might want 90-degree increments. So I can just come down here, click there, change that back to 90, and now you'll notice I've only got my 90-degree increments in there like so. I'll just hit escape to cancel the line command. So you can see that that status bar is really important in your AutoCAD interface. It's what controls all of your drafting settings when you're working on your designs in AutoCAD. We're staying in the interface.dwg file, and we're going to have a look now at how we save to web and mobile using your Autodesk account. Now, you'll notice in the AutoCAD ribbon at the top of the screen on the right-hand side, we've got the option to sign in to our Autodesk account there. And if I hover over it, it tells me that it's the Autodesk A360 account. And what you're doing there is just signing into the online services that are available with your Autodesk account. These are things like storage and rendering and various other bits of functionality that Autodesk offer in the cloud. So we click on the flyout first and sign into our Autodesk account. Now, if you don't have an Autodesk account, the option is there to create one. And it's simply an email address and a password. You set it up. Autodesk will then email you. You click on the link in the email to confirm who you are. Now, mine's already set up, so I've got a name that I put in. So there's my name there, CAD-FM Consultants. I click on Next, and then I put the password in like so. And I click on Sign In. So that will now sign me in, and you'll notice it changes now, saying Sign In Complete, Welcome to Autodesk A360, and I can update my profile and my preferences. But you'll notice now it tells me I'm signed in with my login name and a little blue symbol there. It looks like a little head and shoulders. So we've now got the ability to use the web and mobile tools over here on the Quick Access toolbar. So we can open from web and mobile, and we can save to web and mobile. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to save our interface drawing to the web. So all I do here is I click on this little one here with the blue arrow, save to web and mobile. Now, as soon as I do that, it'll go to my web and mobile folder. So now this is in the cloud. This is all my information in the cloud. Now, you might be prompted by a little dialog box to install a driver for this if you've never used it before. Just say OK to the driver, install it and follow the prompts. Sometimes there are updates for the driver as well. Again, just follow the prompts and update the driver if you need to. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to call this interface, like so, and I'm going to just say save it in the root AutoCAD web and mobile folder. So I click on save. Interface.dwg already exists. Do I want to replace it? Well, I'm going to say yes to that and replace it in my cloud-based repository for my drawing. So that's been replaced. So now my interface drawing is saving. Can you see the blue bar bottom right there? It just basically prompts up. And now you'll notice it tells me all about things like AutoCAD Web, AutoCAD Mobile for iOS and Android. And the lovely thing is if you don't want that popping up all the time, you just click on Don't Show Me This Again. It's a little sort of advertising sort of little box there. Just shows you what tools are available, which is the web app and the mobile app. So now that file has been saved to the web. So what I can do now is close this interface file here, like so. So I'll close that and I'm back to the Start tab, as you can see. If I now go up here to Open from Web and Mobile, it'll bring up the same dialog box. If I scroll down, you can see I've got folders there. And as I come further down, you can see there's different ones, and there's my interface drawing right there. So I select it, click on Open, and that file will now open from my web and mobile cloud-based location. And that's how quick and easy it is. As long as you've got that Autodesk account, you can save to web and mobile at any time. And what's more important there is that file can now be used from the web and mobile folders in the AutoCAD web app and the AutoCAD mobile app. And there are courses on that in the library as well, if you want to check them out. We're starting a new chapter now in our learning